All right, folks, today I'm going to be talking to you about AOI logic. AOI logic refers to AND, or, an inverter logic. This is the very basis of the first circuit that we're going to be doing that we're going to be implementing digital logic. So we're kind of just now getting into some of the meat and bones of the course. This is going to be the components that we're going to be able to use to actually create a circuit that does something that actually makes a determination based on its input, and the output matches up based on it. Right now, we're only looking at some really basic things that we're going to be able to control and do with these. But by chaining together these three basic components, we're able to create a circuit that does a vast range of things. So the first of the three gates that we have to work with this year is the AND gate. An AND gate is named as such because it needs both of the inputs to be a 1 in order to actually create an output Q that is a 1. I've labeled all of my outputs here with the label Q. You're going to see that's pretty commonly done throughout all of our assignments. It looks like I forgot to add the Q on our OR gate here. So I'll just add that in. And beneath each one of these, I have what's called a truth table. What this table is, it's called a truth table because it's things that are true about this circuit at all times. Something that's always true of it. Let's start out with our AND gate here. What we're going to do is we're just going and we're running through in our truth table all of the possible inputs to the circuit, and then what that output will be, the truth of what that output will be based on those inputs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, what if we took input A and made that a 0? We made that ground. Right? We connected input A to ground, or the switch or whatever was set to A set to ground. We have a 0 logic level on there. Now we're going to do the same thing to B. We always start out doing 0 and 0 in our truth table. It's just a convention that's always done in is we do 0, 0. Right? We test a ground on A and a ground on B. And then we follow it up with a ground on A and power on B, so 0, 1. What we're actually doing here is we're counting up in binary through the truth table. So we'll go 0, 1. Then we'll try a 1 on A and a 0 on B. And then finally, we're going to try a 1 on A and a 1 on B. Now what this does for us, this is tested every single input here, right? Every combination, both of them at ground, A at ground, B at power, A at power, B at ground, and A and B both powered. So now this is an AND gate. What an AND gate tells us is that both inputs need to be 1 in order to actually create an output. So it needs to be 1 and 1 in order to make an output. Therefore, with our first option, right, we have a 0 and a 0. Well, 0 and 0, that does not give us a 1. That's always going to give us a 0. It's like both of these things are false, therefore our output will be false. For the next one, 0 and 1. A is a 0, B is a 1. Well, those things are not, it's not 1 and 1, right? They're not both true. So that's also going to be a 0. Same thing for our next case, because they don't match. Finally, we're going to have a 1 and 1. 1 and 1 is 1. An AND gate, no matter how many inputs, will only produce a 1 for something where all of the outputs are 1. If I did something like a 3-input AND gate, like you're going to see down here just below our truth table, it has inputs A, B, and C. We don't use these as much, but this is going to have a very similar truth table. We just have an extra column, and the only place where we would have a 1 is if we put a 1 on each one of those inputs. That's the only situation where we would give it a 1 on the output. Because that is a AND gate. That's the function of an AND gate. It says that everything has to be the same. Let's take a look at our next gate, an OR gate. Now, an OR gate is a little different than an AND gate in that it's a little less picky. It's a little less selective. One of these things has to be true, or the other thing has to be true in order to create an output that's 1. So in this case, we're just going to create the same truth table here at the start. Just running through, counting up in binary. 0, 0 is a 0. 0, 1, that's 1. 1, 0, that would be 2 if we're counting in binary. And 1, 1, that's 3 if we're counting in binary. Now, what this is still done, just as a reminder, this has given us all of the possible inputs. There's no special reason we count up in binary in our truth tables, other than that it ensures that we run through every possible input to a circuit. So this is an OR gate. What an OR gate says is that one thing has to be true, or the other thing has to be true in order to get an output. But this means that 0 and 0, or 0 or 0. Well, neither one of those is true, so we're going to get a 0. An OR gate can be seen in some ways as a pass-through, in that it's going to pass a 1 through if it sees a 1. So no matter what, if it's 1 on the input, it's going to pass a 1 through to the output. This is really useful, actually, and it's more useful than it sounds, because there's a lot of cases where if neither things are true, then we don't want anything to happen. So this 0, 0 case is actually very useful. 0 or 1 is going to give us a 1, right? That's because one or the other input is at a 1, so it's going to pass that 1 through. Next one down, 1 or 0, that's also going to give us a 1 because one input or the other input is a 1. Finally, for the last one, A and B are 1s, so 1 or 1 is 1. Not too bad, right? The same rule is going to apply if we had a 5-input OR gate, a 10-input OR gate. Anytime we get a 1 on an OR gate, we're going to get an output. Now, some of you may have questions about, like, are there any other types of OR gates? There are. There are OR gates that have different functions. There are AND gates that have different functions. And we'll talk about them in another video. But for now, these are just the basic ones that we're going to be using for the first couple of weeks that we're dealing with AOI logic. Last thing we've got is probably the simplest gate we use all year. This is a really simple component, and it's in fact so simple, a lot of times you're going to see just this little circle of it included onto a circuit diagram along with another gate. It's so simple because it just takes a 1 and makes it a 0. It's an inverter. So if our input's a 0, it's going to make our output a 1. If our input's a 1, it's going to make our output a 0. These are the basic gates that we use here. By themselves, they don't do a lot. But by putting this in an inverter after an AND gate, you're going to be able to change what that truth table looks like. That's going to improve